All right, hello 10th Standard Warriors, and a massive welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to be your guide today. If you've been staring at your CBSE geography textbook, kind of wondering how to make sense of Chapter 1, well, take a deep breath because you are in the exact right place. Today, we are not just going to blindly memorize facts. No way. We are going to build complete, rock-solid conceptual mastery of resources and development. Literally, by the time we finish up here, you're going to see the world around you, the land, the soil, the energy, in a completely different way. So sit back, focus up, and let's dive right into this fascinating journey together.
Okay, let's start by busting a pretty massive myth right off the bat. Are resources really just free gifts of nature, as so many people assume? Well, the short answer is an emphatic no. It's a huge misconception. Resources do not just magically exist out there ready for us to use. They are actually a direct function of human activities. You and I, human beings, we are essential components of resources. We're the ones who take the raw materials just sitting in our environment and actually transform them into something valuable. Think about it. A rock is just a rock until a human figures out how to extract the iron from it, right?
So here is our roadmap for today's session. We'll cover what resources are, the need for planning, resource planning in India specifically, land and its uses, the story of soils, and we'll finish off with a quick check your understanding.
All right, jumping into Section 1, what are resources? Let's understand the core triangle.
To truly grasp what a resource is, we need to picture the interdependent relationship that sits right at the heart of our economy. Imagine a triangle. At the absolute center of it all, human beings. We are the driving force. Now, human beings interact with nature, but we don't just do it barehanded, do we? We use technology to interact with our physical environment. And then, to really speed up our economic development, we create institutions, things like factories, governments, and corporations. So resource is essentially born from this perfect, continuous loop of humans using technology on nature and managing the whole thing through institutions.
Now, because our world is so incredibly diverse, we need a system to classify all these resources. Think of it kind of like sorting your inventory in a video game. We classify them in 4 main ways. First, by origin. Is it biotic, meaning it has life, like flora and fauna? Or is it abiotic, meaning non-living things, like rocks and metals? Second, by exhaustibility. Can it renew itself over time, like solar energy? Or is it non-renewable and will eventually just run out, like fossil fuels? Third, by ownership. Who actually owns it? Is it an individual plot of land, a community grazing ground, a national railway, or maybe international waters? And finally, by status of development. This one is super crucial. Is it a potential resource, like the massive wind energy potential in Gujarat that we just haven't fully tapped into yet? Is it developed, meaning we've already surveyed it and are actively using it? Or is it a stock or reserve, where the material is there, but we either don't have the tech to use it yet, or we're purposely saving it for the future?
Moving right along to Section 2, the need for planning. And honestly, we need to talk about the global crisis. With all these resources we just talked about, you might think we're in great shape, right? Well, actually, we're facing a global crisis. And to understand the root of it, we really have to absorb this profoundly powerful quote by Mahatma Gandhi. Listen to this. "There is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed." Gandhi placed the blame for global resource depletion squarely on greedy, selfish individuals and the exploitative nature of modern technology. He was heavily against mass production. Instead, he championed production by the masses. And guys, this philosophy, it is the absolute bedrock of resource conservation today.
So how did the rest of the world finally wake up to Gandhi's wisdom? It happened through a pretty fascinating timeline of global awakening. Back in 1968, the Club of Rome advocated for resource conservation in a really systematic way for the first time. Then, in 1974, E.F. Schumacher published his famous book, Small is Beautiful, which beautifully reintroduced that Gandhian philosophy to the world. Fast forward a bit to 1987, and the landmark Brundtland Commission report was published. This was the exact document that introduced the concept of sustainable development to the globe. It was later published as a book called Our Common Future. This whole timeline of ideas built up incredible momentum, culminating in a massive historic event in 1992. That major event was the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Over 100 heads of state met there to tackle these urgent environmental problems. And it was here that they firmly cemented the definition of sustainable development. Put simply, this means economic development must take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present must not compromise the needs of future generations. At Rio, world leaders adopted a massive declaration called Agenda 21. The really beautiful thing about Agenda 21 is its goal, to combat environmental damage, poverty, and disease through true global cooperation. But, importantly, it recognized that global change starts at home. It explicitly stated that every single local government should draw up its own local Agenda 21.
All right, Section 3, Resource Planning in India. Let's look at the strategic approach. In a country as vast and enormously diverse as ours, planning isn't just a good idea, it is absolutely critical for survival. Why? Because we have specific regions that are incredibly rich in certain resources, but completely deficient in others. Let's take Rajasthan, for example. It is phenomenally well endowed with solar and wind energy. But what does it desperately lack? Water resources. Now, contrast that with the cold desert of Ladakh. It has a very rich cultural heritage, absolutely, but it is incredibly isolated and severely deficient in water, infrastructure, and vital minerals. Do you see the problem here? This is exactly why we cannot just leave things to chance. We need balanced resource planning at the national, state, regional, and local levels to make sure every single part of the country develops together.
So, how do we actually pull off this planning in India? It's a complex process, for sure, but we can break it down into a simple 3-step framework. Step 1, identification and inventory. We have to know what we have. This involves surveying, mapping, and measuring resources across all the different regions of the country. Step 2, evolving a planning structure. Once we know what's out there, we need to set up a structure endowed with the right technology, human skills, and institutional setup to actually develop those resources. And finally, Step 3, matching. We take those specific localized resource development plans and we match them perfectly with our overall national development plans. And fun fact, India has been making concerted efforts to do exactly this right from the very first 5-year plan after independence. Moving into Section 4, Land and its Uses, time to look at the literal ground reality. Let's get down to the absolute micro level here, the land. We share this land with past generations and we are obligated to preserve it for future ones. Why? Because a staggering 95% of our basic needs for food, shelter, and clothing are obtained directly from the land. But here is the tragedy of it all. Human activities haven't just degraded the land directly, they've actually sped up natural forces that cause damage. Let's look at the specific causes of land degradation in India. And guys, pay really close attention to the states here, because geography is all about location. First up, mining. When mining sites are abandoned, they leave deep, deep scars. In states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha, deforestation due to mining has caused severe land degradation. Second, overgrazing. In Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, letting livestock overgraze is a massive, massive issue. Third, over-irrigation. Yes, believe it or not, too much water is a bad thing. In Punjab, Haryana, and western Uttar Pradesh, over-irrigation causes waterlogging. That actually increases the salinity and alkalinity of the soil, completely ruining it. And finally, industrial mineral processing. Just grinding limestone for the cement industry generates huge quantities of dust. That dust settles on the land and literally stops water from naturally filtering down into the soil. All right, Section 5, the story of soils. Let's explore this incredible living system. Okay, I want you to completely change how you view soil. From today onwards, it is not just dirt. Soil is a dynamic living system. It is arguably the most important renewable natural resource we have, supporting so many different types of living organisms on Earth. Now, it takes millions of years to form just a few centimeters of soil. It's heavily influenced by things like relief, parent rock, climate, vegetation, and time. Imagine taking a giant slice out of the Earth, kind of like a piece of cake. At the very top layer, we have the topsoil. This is where all the magic happens. It's where the organic humus is and where our plants actually grow. Right beneath that is the subsoil, which is made of weathered rocks, sand, silt, and clay. If we go even deeper, we hit the substratum. This is weathered parent rock material. And finally, at the very bottom, acting as the foundation of it all, is the unweathered parent bedrock. So the weathering process from the top down and the bedrock from the bottom up, that is exactly what creates this incredible profile. Because India has such incredibly varied relief and climate, we have developed very diverse types of soils. Let's do a quick side-by-side comparison of 3 of the major ones. First up, alluvial soil. This is the big one. The entire northern plains are made of it, deposited by the mighty Himalayan river systems, the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra. As you might guess, it is incredibly fertile. Second, we have red and yellow soils. These are mainly found in the Deccan Plateau and Odisha. They develop on crystalline igneous rocks. And why are they red? It's actually due to the diffusion of iron right there in the rocks. When it gets hydrated, it actually looks yellow. Finally, laterite soil. The word itself literally comes from the Latin word later, which means brick. Found mostly in the southern states and western Ghats, this soil is the result of intense leaching due to heavy, heavy rain. Because all the good nutrients are washed away, it ends up being highly acidic and generally pretty deficient in plant nutrients.
And that brings us to Section 6. Check your understanding. Time for a quick interactive quiz. All right, take a deep breath. We have covered incredible ground today, from the very definition of resources all the way down to the deep layers of Indian soil. But true conceptual mastery means being able to recall this information when it counts. So let's jump into a rapid-fire quiz based straight on your textbook exercises to lock this all in. Question number 1. Think back a few minutes to our breakdown of land degradation. According to the textbook, which of the following is the main cause of land degradation in the state of Punjab? Take a second. Mentally lock in your answer. Think about the specific agricultural practices up there. And the answer is over-irrigation. Brilliant job if you got that right. Remember, while Punjab is incredibly rich agriculturally, pumping way too much water onto the land leads to severe waterlogging. That tragically draws salts up to the surface, increasing soil salinity and ultimately degrading that super precious land. Okay, let's hit question number 2. Let's test your international history a bit. We talked about the monumental 1992 Earth Summit down in Rio de Janeiro. What is one of the major specific objectives of the Agenda 21 declaration that was signed there? Lock it in. And the answer is that every single local government should draw up its own local Agenda 21. This beautifully highlights the core concept that global sustainable development isn't just about presidents and prime ministers talking in a fancy room. It requires real, localized, community-level action from the ground up. And guys, that brings us to the end of our journey today. Mastering these concepts, understanding how we humans interact with nature, the really urgent need for sustainable planning, the intricate profiles of our soil, and the causes of land degradation, it isn't just about checking a box for your CBSE curriculum. It is about understanding the very fabric of our country and, honestly, our planet. The future of these resources is quite literally in the hands of your generation. So the final question I want to leave you with today is this. Are you ready to be a true steward of India's resources? Thank you so much for learning with me today on this explainer. Keep studying hard, stay curious, and I will catch you in the next one.